So when you see a flower, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably its beauty, right? The color, the scent, maybe it's a gift for someone. But what if I told you there's a whole secret world hiding beneath those petals? A world of strategy, seduction, and a really important mission. Today, we're going to peel back those layers and uncover that secret, a story that has literally shaped life as we know it.
Just let that sink in for a moment. All the amazing variety of flowers out there, the incredible smells, those super vibrant colors. Every single one of those details exists for one and only one ultimate purpose. And here's the kicker. It's not for us. Nope. It's all for them.
And what is that mission? Well, it's sexual reproduction. I know, that might sound a little, well, shocking when you're talking about a daisy, but it's true. Every single flower you've ever laid eyes on is basically a highly sophisticated reproductive machine. It's designed with just astonishing precision for one job, creating the next generation. And today, we're diving deep into that secret life. So, let's kick things off by changing how we look at flowers. Forget thinking of them as just pretty decorations. We need to see them as what they are, absolute marvels of engineering. Seriously. Their one and only biological goal is to make the final products of this whole process, fruits and seeds. Yeah, think about it this way. You and I might see a rose and think love or romance, right? But a biologist, they see a perfectly designed stage, an arena, where a really complex genetic drama is about to play out. It's just this beautiful meeting point of form and function. Okay, so to really get what's going on in this drama, we have to meet the main characters. And like a lot of these stories, this one has distinct male and female parts. What's kind of wild is that they're often living together in the very same flower. So let's start with the male side of the operation. All right, meet the stamen. The easiest way to think about it is as the pollen factory. You've got this long, thin stalk thing called the filament, and right on top of it sits the anther. And that anther, that's where all the male messengers are made. So if you could peek inside those pollen sacs, you'd see a process called meiosis going down. It's where these special cells divide and just create thousands upon thousands of these super tiny microspores. Every single one of them then grows up to become a pollen grain, which is basically a microscopic getaway car for the male's genetic info. But here's what's truly mind-blowing, the design of the pollen grain itself. It's not just a speck of dust, it's a tiny fortress. Its outer wall is made of this stuff called sporopollenin. And let me tell you, this material is unbelievably tough. It can handle crazy high temperatures, strong acids, you name it, it just doesn't break down. That's actually why we can find fossilized pollen from millions of years ago. It's that durable. Okay, time to meet the female player, the pistil. Right at the very top, you've got the stigma. Think of it as a sticky landing pad for any incoming pollen. That's connected by a stalk called the style, which goes all the way down to the ovary. And the ovary is like a safe at the bottom, protecting all the precious cargo inside. Now, inside that ovary, you'll find the ovules. And this is where things get interesting, because the strategy here is totally different. A single cell goes through meiosis and makes 4 new cells, but unlike the thousands of pollen grains we just talked about, 3 of these cells just disappear. They degenerate. Only one makes it. Just one survives to become the female gametophyte, which we call the embryo sac. So you can see it's all about quality here, not quantity. And after just a couple more divisions, you're left with this embryo sac. It's this super efficient little package. And tucked away inside is the ultimate prize, the whole point of the story, the egg cell. Yep, all of this incredible effort is to get to that one cell. All right, let's recap. We've got our male messenger, the pollen grain, all ready to go, and we've got our female target, the egg cell, waiting inside the embryo sac. So now comes the most dangerous part of the whole mission. How in the world does that tiny pollen grain travel from one flower to another? This epic journey has a name, and it's called pollination. At its core, it's pretty simple, just moving pollen from the male anther to the female stigma. But while it sounds straightforward, plants have come up with some truly incredible and clever strategies to actually make it happen. So plants have basically 2 kinds of delivery services they can use. The first one is kind of like playing the lottery. It's the game of chance approach, using things like wind and water. For this to work, flowers don't need to be all flashy and pretty. They just churn out enormous amounts of super lightweight pollen and hope for the best. That some of it will land in the right spot. But then you've got the much more targeted approach, using animals.
We're talking bees, birds, even bats. And to get their attention, flowers have to become total show-offs. They get big, colorful, fragrant, and they offer a sweet reward, nectar. It's a way, way more efficient delivery system. So let's say the pollen has successfully landed on the stigma. Now, the most critical part of the entire story is about to unfold. We're talking about a microscopic event that's so unique, so clever, that you only find it in flowering plants. It's called double fertilization. But hold on a second. First, the stigma has to play bouncer. It needs to make sure it's the right kind of pollen. It can actually recognize pollen from its own species through this really complex chemical conversation. If it's the wrong type, nope, rejected. But if it's a match, the gate swings open. Once it gets the green light, the pollen grain starts to grow a tiny tube. This tube literally tunnels its way all the way down the style, heading for the ovary. You can think of this pollen tube as a microscopic pipeline, and it's carrying 2 male gametes. It's guided by chemical signals, almost like a GPS, and it navigates perfectly to find the entrance to the ovule. And here it is. This is why we call it double fertilization. It's because 2 completely separate fusions happen at the exact same time. First, one of the male gametes fuses with the egg cell. That creates the zygote, which is basically the baby plant, the embryo. Then, the second male gamete fuses with 2 other nuclei in that central cell, and this creates the endosperm. So what's the endosperm's job? It has one purpose: to be the packed lunch for the growing embryo. How smart is that? It's absolutely genius. Okay, so once this tiny microscopic miracle is complete, the flower's job is pretty much done. Now, the entire structure starts this magnificent transformation into something we're all very familiar with: seeds and fruits. So you might be wondering, what becomes what? Well, it's actually a really cool transformation. The ovule, that turns into the seed. The ovary that was surrounding it, that swells up and becomes the fruit. The little zygote grows into the embryo, and that endosperm we talked about becomes its food supply. Even the wall of the ovary gets a new job. It turns into the skin or peel of the fruit, what scientists call the pericarp. And the result of all this work, the seed, is just an incredible survival pod. I mean, how incredible are we talking? Well, get this. Archaeologists near the Dead Sea found a jar of old seeds, and one of them, from a date palm, was successfully germinated after being dormant for 2,000 years. That is the kind of mind-blowing resilience we're dealing with here. So really, when you stop and think about it, the seed is one of evolution's greatest hits. It's the absolute foundation of all agriculture. I mean, it's the complete package for the next generation. It's got a suit of armor to protect the embryo, it comes with its own packed lunch, and it has the patience to wait, sometimes for years, for the perfect moment to sprout. And on top of all that, it's designed for travel, to help the plant spread to totally new places. So, from the unbelievably intricate design of a tiny pollen grain to the genius trick of double fertilization, the story of a flower is truly a masterpiece of biology. It's this epic journey of struggle and triumph, and it's happening all around us, every single day, right under our noses. Definitely something to chew on the next time you bite into an apple.